Welcome to Dallas Social Toastmasters, another edition or rendition, if you will. I am your Zoom facilitator for the evening, which means that if you have any issues throughout the meeting, please go ahead and send me a private chat. You can see my name down here at the bottom of my square. It says Rob Giles, so just look for that and send me a private chat if you're having an issue with something, and I'll see what I can do to help. Mark Schroeder is my backup this evening as Zoom facilitator, so if you aren't getting a response from me because I'm just not paying attention, then perhaps Mark will be better to get your answer or your problem fixed. A couple of things that I want to go over before we proceed with the meeting is that if you're not speaking, if you're not one of our duty holders, that is the counter or the posture monitor, then please make sure that you're on mute. And if you are going to speak, obviously take yourself off mute. When you're done speaking, go ahead and put yourself back on mute. It just helps to keep the flow and not any overlapping sounds or any echoing and things of that nature. Also, I want to mention that our timer for the evening is Tanya Howard. So if you are speaking, whether you're a prepared speaker, whether you are a table topic speaker or an evaluator, make sure that you can see her when you are speaking, whether you have to pin her using those three dots up in the top right corner of, should I put in my other hand? Thanks a lot, Taken. I appreciate it. I'm reversed, so I'm seeing things differently. So anyway, but it's the three dots are up at the, I guess up here at the top three, up at the top corner. So if you move your mouse over there, you get a chance to pin. If you click on the three dots, you'll have a chance to pin the speaker or pin whoever it is that you're looking at. In that case, for what I'm talking about, you'd want to use Tanya for that if you're going to pin her. If not, just make sure that she's on the screen when you're talking so that you can see as she times what your qualification and where you're meeting your goals as far as timing is concerned. I think that is it for Zoom facilitator. I can't remember anything else that I needed to mention. But I do want to, at this point, before I send it over to our club president for a moment, I want to go ahead and actually read off a quote that hopefully it's related to the theme of the day. We'll see. And just, oh, and that's another thing actually I do need to pull up. But the quote is by Novala Takamoto. And the quote is, "Snow falling soundlessly in the middle of the night will always fill my heart with sweet clarity." And this is something that I saw and I thought, this is something that I experience whenever I go to my parents in the winter and the snow is coming down, and just from my past, snow coming down in the middle of the night, the dead of night, quiet as a mouse, nothing can be heard. You just have the snow coming down. And it's a almost surreal experience for me. I don't know if anybody else has experienced any of that, but it's something to be experienced, I think, by everybody at some point in time in their life, if they can. So at this point, I do want to share our screen, and I'm going to show you where you can take a look for our agenda. If you go to our website, which is DallasSocialToastmasters.com. When you open that up on the homepage, over to the right side, you'll see a members section. And in that little, I guess, area or section, you're going to see something that says current agenda. And if you click on that, that will bring up today's current agenda, the agenda for this evening. And in a moment here, it will load up for me. And there you go. So you'll see that there. So it's again at DallasSocialToastmasters.com, current agenda. Save it, print it, whatever you need to do in order to have it handy as we go through the meeting so you can follow along. And at this point, I'm just going to leave it up there for just a moment, but I am going to go ahead and pass the meeting over to our club president for just a moment before he moves it on over to our Toastmaster for the evening. So please help me to welcome our club president for Dallas Social Toastmasters, Mr. Mark Sims.
Thank you, Rob. Welcome, everyone. And especially glad to see two of our newer members here, Karen Smith, Cheryl Slagle, and very pleased, Evelyn, for you to join us tonight. And during the course of the evening, Evelyn, if you notice us doing things like this, that's the best we can do for applause in a socially distanced Zoom environment where we're muted a lot of the time. So we usually want to encourage the speakers to show them approbation, and so that's the best we can do. That is what that is for.
Thank you.
Then thank you for being here. And during the course of the evening, if, for example, in the table topics, which we'll get to in a few minutes, if you want to participate, you'd be welcome. And then there, or after the actual meeting is over, we'll want to find out just a little more about you, but thank you for being here. And at this point, I'd like to turn it over to our Toastmaster for the evening, Lee King.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. Welcome. And today's theme is Snow Day. While we missed snow, unfortunately, so far this year, or perhaps if you were far enough north, you may have seen some white snow. Actually, I guess if you were here in the Dallas area about a week or so ago, you would have seen a little bit of snowfall, although it didn't stick. But nevertheless, I thought this would be a good time to talk about Snow Day, because one thing that has occurred throughout the pandemic is everybody's getting better at doing everything remotely. And one very interesting thing that I found that's actually being researched is if schools are going to keep inclement weather snow days around after coronavirus, since it now is able to easily put everything on Zoom and do things remotely. They really have to keep school days. And it didn't really occur to me fully until I actually saw this Campbell soup commercial. It was for tomato Campbell soup. And it was about these kids that were excited about the snow coming. And then one of the two kids pointed out that they may not get to play in the snow because nowadays with virtual learning, the schools may not close. And I know that when we were looking at perhaps having a couple of snow days this year, there were some school districts that said yes, they would keep them. Some districts that said no, and some didn't know. I guess they were going to decide the morning of what they were planning on doing. Very interesting times, and I just thought that this would be a good time to discuss those. So I can tell you that I remember very few snow days in my life growing up, being here in Texas, although I do remember there being that one fairly good sized snow many years ago, back in 2002, I guess, because I was an undergrad student at A&M Commerce, and Commerce got hit really hard with snow. And I managed to get back to my dorm, and I called for Domino's Pizza, and I was actually their last delivery before they decided it was too dangerous to deliver any further pizza. And so I ended up splitting a large pizza and some cinnamon dots from Domino's. That's what I survived on for about 3 days because it was just too snowy, too hard to even get over to the main campus for the cafeteria. So definitely I have had snow days in my college years, very few in my actual school year days as K through 12. At this time, I will go ahead and introduce our various duty holders throughout the day. Our first duty holder is Tanya Howard, who is both our timer as well as vote counter. So Tanya, will you please share your roles for this evening?
Good evening. As a vote counter this evening, I will be collecting the votes for the different opportunities that we have to vote on our best speaker of the night, the best evaluator. We also do table topics and the big three, which is table topics, the general evaluator and the Toastmaster for the evening. And so at the end, I'll be calling for votes, and you will send me a private chat in the chat box directly to me, and I will tabulate those votes. And at the end of the evening, I will report out. As timer, I will be timing the speeches, which are usually 5 to 7 minutes. I'll also time table topics, which are 1 to 2 minutes, and the evaluations, which are 2 to 3 minutes. I will hold up these cards for table topics. I'll hold up the green at the minimum time, the yellow, and then the red at the maximum time. And then you have 30 seconds after I hold up the red to qualify for the voting. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you for your report. Next, we have Karen Lee, who will also be holding 2 roles, that of the grammarian and the odd counter. Karen, will you please share your roles with us for this evening?
My role as a grammarian this evening means that I have the privilege of picking the word of the day, and the word of the day today is unity. It means state of being joined as a whole. A sentence using the word unity is the unity of the relationship was very strong. In order to qualify for best table topics, you would need to use the word of the day, unity, when you give your presentation during table topics. And Dagan has typed it in his box today, so he's giving us a prop for the use of the word of the day. Also, I'll keep track of interesting uses of the English language during our meeting. And I'll also, as a counter, I'll listen for crutch words like so, you know, and I'll give a report when I'm called upon at the end of the Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you. And our final duty holder for this evening is Mark Sims, who will be our posture monitor. Mark, will you please share your role?
As posture monitor, I'll be looking for any type of gestures, any type of nonverbal actions that someone does that may detract from their speeches or from their table topics responses. If we were in person, I could be looking for things like hands in pockets, for example. In this setting, maybe, I don't know, touching yourself, playing with your glasses, something that draws attention that really is not helpful to what you're saying. And then I will kill like Ron Giles just did. Nice one, Ron. Okay. So I'll keep or give a report when called upon during the general evaluation section. Mr. Toastmaster.
All right. Just before going into our prepared speaking portion of the meeting, I thought I would open it up. Does anybody have any snow day stories that they would like to share? Rob, I'm sure you've had plenty from New York.
I've got plenty from New York, but I'm going to tell you the one. And a lot of these things you remember and they stick with you because they don't happen all the time. Now, again, up in Buffalo, more so than not, probably too many, and they're convoluted because there's so many, but not as many as you might think. But I want to talk about one that happened to me when I lived in San Antonio back in probably, I want to say, I don't know the exact year, maybe like 78, 79 or 80 maybe. And it was a time where it snowed, I think 13 inches and everything closed and there was snow on the ground and we ended up driving, and everybody, of course, everything's closed, right? Because you are trying to be safe. You don't want everybody going everywhere and going to school. But you always have people that are going to be going out on the roads and going wherever they can to go sledding or whatever they're going to do. And that's one of the times that I remember, just because it was a shock to me. The previous Christmas was one of my first Christmases without snow, and I would go outside and I'd be playing basketball. And then now you had 13 inches of snow come down over a day or so, and it was amazing. It was great to have that feeling of being kind of back home in a way. And it was great because it was a surprise. And then obviously I was a kid, and it was great to be out of school. So that was great too. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Does anybody else have a brief story that they'd like to share?
Lee, I remember in the late 80s, and I was living in Longview, working out in East Texas, and driving to a bank between Gilmer, Texas and Pittsburgh, Texas. I managed to go into a ditch. And back in those days, before cell phones, I knocked on a stranger's door at his mobile home, and just to use their phone. And the person was very gracious, invited me in and let me wait it there until the tow truck came. So wonderful memory now that it's way in the past.
All right. With that, we will now go into our prepared speaking portion of the meeting. Our first speaker for this evening is John Bessels. His evaluator will be Marcia Collins. Marcia, will you please introduce? Will you please introduce John Bessels' speech to us?
Evening. Thank you. Good evening, everyone, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This evening, John Bessels will be presenting to us a speech entitled COVID a Year Later. John's objective this evening is using presentation software. His speech will be 5 to 7 minutes. I'd like to introduce to you all this evening Mr. John Bessels, COVID a Year Later. John Bessels, COVID a Year Later.
John, you go ahead and take it.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Let me start my broadcast here. My speech tonight is COVID 1 year later, a year recap. Yesterday represented 1 year that we've been doing or living with COVID. That was the first confirmed case was last year on January 20th. And now 1 year later, we are still seeing COVID cases, and much worse than they were when we started by a long shot. Predictions have exceeded what the expected toll was. America right now yesterday, it was 24.3 million cases. Today, they're saying 24.5 million cases. And as of yesterday, we had greater than 400,000 deaths from COVID-19. We now exceeded the number of deaths experienced from World War II on American soldiers. So we've gone to something that is just really kicking our butts. So what are we doing? Vaccines. We finally have a vaccine, and it's the response to COVID. The way to get it under control is vaccine the answer. And you have to say yes. It is helping. It is slow in getting out there. There are so many people that need to receive the vaccine. The vaccine rollout is going okay, but it's not going as much as it's needed and as quickly as it's needed. And one of the downsides, of course, is everything's 2 shots so far. I've had my first shot, and next week I'll end up getting my second shot. And the first shot gives me a 50% chance of immunity, and the second shot will give me a 90% chance of immunity. So while we're waiting for everybody in America, or at least hopefully 70% of America, to get the vaccinations and get their immunity to COVID, before we can begin to return to a normalcy that we were accustomed to pre-COVID, how can we go about coping with it? So the way we can defeat COVID and the spread of COVID is the use of vaccines. There are a lot of people still out there that are refusing to take the vaccine, which to me makes no sense at all. I know it was rushed through, and some people are leery about that, while a lot of people have gotten it, and knock wood, no immediate effect. They can never tell long-term effects, but I'm optimistic that it's not. The people that are out there that are refusing to take it politically because they believe COVID is fake, I just feel sorry for those people. Another way we can continue to defeat the spread of COVID is social distancing. I know we've been hearing about that for a year now, but social distancing is one of the best ways to stay away from it. If you do have to be in close proximity, please be wearing your masks. And we can talk about masks a little bit. Masks need to be like a 3M, like a surgical mask or a N95 mask are the absolute best choices you can have. If you can't get one of those, a 3-layer mask with about 3 layers of fabric is also really effective. T-shirts and single layer masks are minimally effective, but they do provide some protection, so it's best to get a better quality mask. Also, one of the things that you see a lot is people with their nose hanging out. That is one of the worst possible ways that you can get it, because the vector for COVID is through your nose. You don't get it as much through your mouth, and most of it's inhaled through your nose, so your nose is the biggest part of how you get it. So be sure and cover up your nose. You also should be hand washing frequently, especially if you've been outside in other areas or handling materials from the outside that you're not accustomed to handling. And limiting your time if you have to be in an indoor group. So if you must be inside for a while, wear your mask, social distance as much as possible. What doesn't work? What doesn't work are these things: mouthwash. Mouthwash is wonderful and make your breath smell fresh and everything, but like I told you a minute ago, inhalation through your nose and your nostril is the main vector that you catch COVID. So mouthwash is fine, but it's not going to help you. Immune booster vitamins, things like that, do not help. Disposable gloves. If you're going to use disposable gloves, you need to wear them and throw them away frequently. And I don't know if you're going to have one go through 10 pairs of gloves a day or something like that. Hospitals, they wear gloves, but they still wash their hands and sanitize their gloves and dispose of gloves and move into the set of gloves frequently. Sanitizing packages. There was a big rumor or big thing that people were going out and buying their groceries and coming home and sanitizing every one of their packages they got from the grocery store. They haven't really found any cases that are spread like that. They said the best thing you do, buy your groceries, unpack them, then wash your hands. Air ionizers. Air ionizers don't really help. They clean the air, but they don't pull COVID out of the environment. So you're still going to have it. Herbal supplements, again, they do no real good. So there's no reason to start supplementing with that. Fresh air, fresh air kind of, I guess I really should be on the thing. It does work in one sense that you're not in a closed environment. So that, you have more concentration of COVID. So that one's kind of an iffy thing, really. But what does work? What does work are face masks. A good face mask whenever you're in contact with other people. Like we said, best way is a N95 mask, surgical mask, or at least 3-layer kind of mask if you make it yourself or you get it from somebody else. Skaters and stuff, if they're multi-layer, they're okay. If they're not, and they're like a single layer, they're kind of marginal. Hand sanitizer, and when you can't wash your hands for 20 seconds at a time, hand sanitizers, carry them with it. I have some in my car. I have some in the house. So I sanitize as much as possible when I can't just wash my hands, but keep them handy. Air purifiers. If you have a HEPA filter in your air conditioning system at home, that does help because the HEPA filters will filter out the COVID-19 virus. So HEPA filters and stuff in your air conditioning system do help. A home COVID test. If you want to spend the money, you can get a home COVID test, take the test at home, send it off, and you'll get the results. It's not instantaneous, but sometimes getting to a COVID test environment is not going to work for you. Vitamin D. It protects you from respiratory infections, and it's being shown that it is a good vitamin to take every day, especially for COVID. And hand washing. Keep your hands washed, wash them frequently. Do everything you can. Use the unity of our nation, of our people, of our friends and family to help combat the spread of COVID-19. I don't want y'all to get it. I don't want to get it. I want my family to get it. Everybody take care and be safe. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rob. John, very good information. And I can say that a lot of that stuff is very good information. I got COVID over Christmas. I got COVID for Christmas. That's all I wanted. Instead of my 2 front teeth was a nice round of COVID. Anyway, I have to say that my wife was actually very vitamin D deficient, and her doctor put her on a mega dose of vitamin D. Actually, she took that once a week. She was on that for couple of months, actually. Anyway, oddly enough, she did not get it, and I figured that since I had it and I didn't know it at the time, when I had symptoms, it felt like I had allergies, and I actually tested negative when I had symptoms. As soon as the symptoms went away, then I tested positive. So needless to say, after being around her for several days, obviously positive, I figured she would have gotten it, but she didn't get it. And I kind of wonder if maybe that was because she was on such a mega dose of vitamin D. I really don't know. Our next speaker for this evening is Mark Schroeder, and his evaluator is Dagan. Dagan, can you please introduce Mark Schroeder's speech?
Yes. So the evaluation form you sent me is connect with storytelling. And the purpose of this is for this project is for the member to practice using a story within a speech or giving a speech that is a story. And the member is completing a project is focusing on using stories in the speech or creating a speech as a story. The member may use any type of story, personal, well-known, fiction, or one of their own. And that's what he's going to be doing tonight. So back to you, Toastmaster.
All right. And Mark, I'm sorry, I lost your speech title. What is your speech title again?
The title is going to be Scared and Confused.
Yes. All right. Please help me welcome Mark Schroeder, Scared and Confused. Scared and Confused, Mark Schroeder.
Give me 1 second here to pin my timer. I'm sure a lot of you here have pets. Tonight I was going to tell you the story of how we got our most recent pet. We started off deciding that we did want to get a pet and went to some of the local shelters, looked around there. Ultimately, one night, probably on a Friday night as I recall, we hit a site called petfinders.com. And on petfinders.com, there was one particular cat. The cat was being held up like this, right under the shoulders, right under the arms. So the cat was just kind of there like this. And well, the look on the cat's face was just completely, I'm confused. I don't know what's going on here. But then you read through the description and it said, I really don't know what happened. I used to have a home and I had people that loved me. And then suddenly I found myself on the streets. I'm so scared and confused. And if that wasn't bad enough, they had named the cat Tootsie. Now, that for me was the clincher. It meant I absolutely had to see this cat to see whether or not it was an option for us. For a lot of you, Tootsie means Dustin Hoffman in a dress, in a house dress. But for me, it meant something entirely different. For me, Tootsie was a stuffed animal that I had when I was a child. This was something that I grew up with age 6 to 10. I named it Tootsie. The word Tootsie became synonymous with stuffed animal for me. It was one of my most loved and favored toys. This particular one is not, well, it is mine now, but it was not mine when I grew up. I actually got this out of an estate sale on eBay. I could still find it. And it's probably from about in the 60s, just guessing. My wife hates it. She thinks it has a maniacal look on its face. But of course, growing up with it the way I did, I don't see that. But the sheer fact that this particular cat was named Tootsie with the description, there was no choice. I absolutely had to go see this cat. Turns out this cat was in Commerce, at the Commerce shelter. So we were going to have to make a trek all the way out to Commerce. We'd done all the local shelters. I called them the first weekend. They said, well, we'd love to be able to do that, but I came in this morning and we've got a mess here and we're completely out of paper towels. I'm the only one here. I've got to go to Costco to get the paper towels. Nobody's going to be in the shelter. So can't come this week. Okay. Well, maybe you can come next week if everything is okay. We're not sure she's going to make it, but because she's not looking really good, but if she can, maybe she'll make it to next weekend. I'm thinking maybe I can make it in the middle of the week. That didn't happen. But the next weekend, they said they were doing a tag day in the middle of downtown Commerce, Texas. A tag day is basically when they set out and do the tags on the back, the injectable tags, so that they can just scan a dog or cat and look them up by the implant, who the owner is. And so I said, that'll work. They said they would bring her to the tag day. So we drove up to Commerce on the tag day. And Commerce, Texas, the square literally is a square. It's a very small plot of land in the middle of the city. Street all the way around, all four corners. And beyond that, there's a row of businesses basically right on the other side of those streets. It looks almost like a Monopoly board game for all practical purposes. But we show up, a lot of dogs. They're doing a lot of tags. That people don't tag as many cats as they do dogs. But they've got her in a carrier. They pull her out of the carrier. My wife and I are sitting on two metal folding chairs in the middle of Commerce, Texas, downtown. They put the cat on I believe it was probably because I had been their main contact, on my lap. And the cat walked back and forth a few times between my lap and my wife's lap, finally sat down on her lap and started grooming itself. The staff from the shelter said, we're really surprised. This is the first time we've seen her groom herself in about 2 weeks. And she was not in good shape. She was covered with fleas. She was thin. She was weak. She was impacted with feces on the back. Nobody had cleaned her up. They said, we don't know if she's going to make it, but if you want to take her home, you can try. And if it doesn't work out, you can bring her back, whatever. So we did. We decided we'd take her home. So we get her home. And yeah, we're still not sure whether she's going to make it. She is extremely thin, frail. This is a 1.5-year-old cat. She weighs about 4 pounds, basically. She should be double that, maybe about 9. She is so weak that she was not even able to jump up on the couch by herself. That's how weak this cat was. Take her to the vet. She's also not eating. And the vet finds a whole bunch of things to fix. First of all, some medicine to get her to eat. So there were some things that we gave her that improved her appetite. And we finally found some things that she would eat. We found out that she was being given food with salmon in it, and she's got a fish allergy. So that was another problem. She had also had a flea allergy and had been covered with fleas. And finally, she had an infection. And so we ended up on antibiotics as well. So a round of antibiotics. The people at the Commerce shelter, to be honest, their heart is in the right spot. Their competence lags a little bit behind that, sadly. But we got her home, and we got her to the point that she was much better and well. And ultimately, this is a picture of what she looked like shortly thereafter. This is probably still one of my favorite pictures. I actually have professional studio lights. I set them up. She jumped up on the chair while I had the lights set up, so I had to flash a few shots of her. Probably the best shot I will ever get of a cat. We've had her now for a total of, well, let's see, backing it off, that would be probably about 11.5 years, because I think she's about 13. This is what she looks like today. She looks like a little bit more of an older lady. But we made sure that she had a forever home, and she will have a forever home with us. If you have a chance, if you ever have a chance, adopt or take home a foster, because there are so many animals out there that need it. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mark, for your speech. I think I've heard about Tootsie the whole time that I've been in Toastmasters. And I'll freely admit that when I first saw the name Tootsie, I would have guessed that you must like Tootsie Rolls or something and named it after the Tootsie Roll. All right, with that, we will move on into table topics, and that will be led by Rob Giles. Rob, please take it away. Oh, wait, first, let's get a timer's report. Is our timer here?
So John Vessels did not make the time. I have you at 9 minutes and 50 seconds. And Mark, you did make your time at 7 minutes and 10 seconds.
Okay. At this point, then we will not need to vote, and we will move on in. But please, if you have any comments for either one of our speakers, please feel free to send them a message via private chat. And now we'll go ahead and move on into table topics. Rob, please take it away.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. Our table topics portion of the meeting is a way for us to learn how to speak off the cuff, impromptu, extemporaneously. We need to think on our feet, and this helps us to do it and to be able to express ourselves when we think on our feet. So table topics is good. It's good for you. It can help you with interviews. It can help you with social engagements. It can help you with arguments or debates. It can help you with interrogations in case you happen to be interrogated by somebody, maybe a spouse, maybe a friend that you're in an argument with. And ultimately, it can help you very much right here where we are in Toastmasters as you grow. Again, to go over the rules as far as qualifying and being the best table topic speaker, you do have to speak for at least 1 minute. So you have to wait till you see that first card, that green card. And then you do have to speak under 2 minutes and 31 seconds. So you can reach 2 minutes and 30 seconds. If you do so, you're good to go. If you go one more second over, you're gone. You need to use the word of the day.
Rob, we lost your audio.
It's not showing here, but the word of the day, you got me?
Yes, you're back.
Word of the day is unity. So you're going to have to try to bring all the particles in your brain together to somehow incorporate that word into your table topic speech. And if you do that, then that will help you to qualify. Then obviously, if you do all those things, you still have to receive the most votes from everybody in order to win. So keep all of those things in mind. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and start our topics, and they're going to have a little bit of a connection to the theme for the evening. And I'm going to start off with, let's see here. I want you to tell us about a snow activity that you might like or that you would like to try when you get the very next opportunity to do so. So tell us about a snow activity that you've already done, but you would like to do again, or something that you haven't done, but you would like to try the next opportunity that you get. And this one goes out to our counter and grammarian, Karen Lee. Karen.
The snow activity, the question is a snow activity that I would like to try. I made a trip to Washington State, and we spent a couple of days in Leavenworth, Washington. And I didn't get a chance to go sledding this time because my niece fell and had to go to the emergency room. So I'd like to get a chance next time to go sledding, and I hope that all of my bones are in unity by the time I get to the bottom of the hill. Yes, I want to go sledding, Mr. Table Topics Master. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karen. The next question is going to go to somebody, and you can see our grammarian holding up the word of the day. So again, you do need to use that. But the next one is, I want you to go ahead and rank the following from your favorite to your least favorite. And tell us why you're ranking them in that way. And these are the things that you need to rank: building a snowman, having a snowball fight, and what Karen did, sledding. So build a snowman, have a snowball fight, or go sledding. Rank those three according to your favorite to your least favorite, or vice versa, and tell us a little bit about why you chose that order. And this one is going to actually go to our timer. So I'm going to take over for you here, Tanya. Tanya, please go ahead and rank those three things if you could for me.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. When I think about building a snowman and having a snowball fight and then sledding, the unifying thing is that it requires you to be in cold weather, and I'm not really a cold weather fan. And so I'm going to say that the least thing that I would like to do is a snowball fight, because I really don't want to get hit with snow. I don't mind hitting other people. I just don't want to get hit with the snowball. And then second, in the middle, I believe that building a snowman would be the second thing that I would least like to do. because then you have to run around and find all of the accessories and materials to really make that work. And it's a lot of work really trying to build the snowman, especially here in Texas when you don't get much snow to begin with. Trying to scrape up and pull together a snowman is a little bit tricky. And finally, the sledding, I think I would like to try to sled. I've never sledded. And I think it would be a good adventure, something that I should say or try to do at least once in my life so that I could say I've lived. But that is the order I believe that I would choose to do the three things. Thank you, Mr. Table Talks.
Thank you very much, Tanya. We appreciate that. The next question is going to be the following. Where would you prefer to live somewhere else to experience different or at least more diverse weather? Where would you want to live? And and if you don't, if you want to stay right where you are, that's fine too. But regarding those choices, why or why not? And this one is going to go to Mr. John Vessels.
Yeah. Okay, cool. That's easy. I lived in Amarillo for like 13 years, from the time I was like 20 and to the time I was, I guess, 33, considering I said 13 years. And Amarillo to me was fun weather. That's what I liked. There were definitely 4 seasons up there, all of them windy, but we did have quite a bit of snow in the winter, but it wasn't awful. I mean, I think most we had like in one snowfall was like 12 inches, which was like, you know, it was okay. It didn't bother me. But usually we have snow on the weekend during like January and sometimes into February. We'd have snow on the weekend. During the week, the snow would melt, and then come the next weekend, we'd have snow again. So it kind of had this cycle of freeze thaw, freeze thaw, freeze thaw. And we always had our very first snow on October 31st, invariably. Now, it's always a really wet snow, and it was warm, so it'd be gone like the next day. But I spent 1 year at home on Christmas Day by myself, and it was a lot of snow that day. We had a big snowstorm, and it was cool, but I liked it. Also, we had, have you ever been in a snow thunderstorm? It was like a thunderstorm where you see lightning and big old clouds, but it's just snowing instead of raining. Been one of those. Those were actually really cool. And I love going out at night when everything's covered with snow, because the street lights make this funny glow, and the quality of light is just kind of amazing. It's very unique and very different. It's just kind of cool, and I always really like that. So I always like to go out at night when everything's covered with snow. But we had a nice little spring, a nice summer. Well, sometimes summers were pretty hot, and then we had autumn. So I still like living up there. I like the atmosphere, the dry climate, and I'm good to go. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much, John. Our next question is, do you personally relate a snow day to being happy, stressful, or just another day? And this question, you want to tell us why, but this question is going to go out to our Toastmaster for the evening, Mr. Lee King.
I think I do enjoy snow days. I think that it's a great way to create unity with other people that you are staying with whenever it's snowing, unless of course you're by yourself. But it's a good way to be able to spend time with other people and get caught up on things that maybe don't normally get to be caught up on. Also, I think that snow days are just fun because you can sit back, you can relax, you can watch the snowfall. Don't feel like you have to really rush anywhere because, well, there's really nowhere to go, especially in Dallas. Everything shuts down with snow falling. That pretty much shuts town down. Lord help us if we have more than that. And I also find it nice to enjoy the quiet. It always seems like it's more quiet when it is snowing. But I think that definitely the experience of having days off, snow days, is a unifying experience. And I think that pretty much anybody would agree that a day off from time to time is enjoyable. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much, Lee. All right, this next question is, if you could choose any one of the following: rain, wind, sun, or snow. Again, rain, wind, sun, or snow. If you could choose any of those, just one, for this Saturday, which would it be and why? This one goes out to Karen Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topic Master. This Saturday is leading up to my mother's 80th birthday, so I would choose sunshine. We are attempting, my family members and myself are attempting to provide for her a surprise parade, and we've invited lots of people in the community to come out and cousins of ours to come out, and it's in Louisiana. So we'll have takeaway food, and my family, along with my mother, I feel like a great sense of unity will be provided. My mother will, instead of being so isolated during this time, she will feel a great sense of unity with her family and her community. So I know that I would desire to have sunshine for this weekend, for this Saturday. That would be the optimal choice for me for my mother's 80th birthday party. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Karen. Appreciate that. At this point, I'm going to ask our timer for a timer's report. Madam Timer, did all of our contestants qualify on time?
Everyone qualified except Karen, who did not make the 1 minute.
Karen Lee, right?
Lee, yeah, sorry. Karen Lee did not make the 1 minute minimum time.
Which, thank you very much. Which brings me to Miss Karen Lee. Karen, did everybody use the word of the day?
Everybody used the word day except John. Did you use the word of the day? I didn't hear you in your table topic, but I heard it in your formal speech.
No, I did not say it in table topics.
Okay, so John Vessels did not use the word of the day. Everybody else.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Karen. All right, so these are the people that you can vote for. And what you'll want to do is you want to send a private chat to our vote counter, and that vote counter is Tanya Howard. And you want to send for one of the three that I'm about to mention, and that would be the choices of Tanya Howard, the timer herself, who talked about ranking snowman, building a snowman, having a snowball fight, and sledding, and what her favorite to least favorite was. You know, sledding was the #1 thing that she would like to do. The next contestant would be Mr. Lee King, who talked about whether a snow day is a stressful thing or a happy thing. He thought it was a good thing, happy thing, brought a lot of unity, he thought, to people. So you can vote for Lee King there. And then also Karen Smith, who for this Saturday, who happens to be her her grandmother's 80th birthday, right? Your grandmother's? Yep. Amazing, amazing. And she wants some sun for that day, for this Saturday. So happy birthday to her. And you can choose, so you can choose Karen Smith with that. You can choose Lee King with whether a snow day is going to be a happy day or a stressful day. He chose happy. And then again, Tanya Howard, who ranked what she'd like to do, with the most being to go sledding. Go ahead and send a private chat to Tanya Howard with that answer. And I just want to say that I love this theme. It just brings back a lot of memories for me. So thank you for bringing that up, Lee. I have some photos I can show after we're done with the meeting, if anybody sticks around. But at this point, I want to, unless Lee, you have something that you need, I want to transfer this over to our general evaluator for the evening, and that is Mr. Mark Sims. Take it away.
Thank you, Rob. In this part of the meeting, we will evaluate. We'll hear from speech evaluators, we'll hear from duty holders, and then I'll give some remarks on evaluating the meeting as a whole. We will start off with speech evaluations. Our first speaker was John Vessels, and he was evaluated by Marcia Collins. So Marcia, please give us your evaluation.
Yeah, thank you. To recap, John presented a speech entitled COVID, a 1-year recap. I think I missed that part, so I do apologize, that end part. So because the title is important, kind of sets the stage. I really and truly enjoyed the speech. I really did. I enjoyed the opening to where you gave very relevant and factual stats relating to COVID and the impact currently in the US. That historical correlation really set the stage. The personal sharing of getting the vaccine was very good. Your scientific response to it, why you got the vaccine, I thought that was very good. For any of us who are still kind of like on the fence, you gave a personal rationale behind that. The slide, now for each slide, I felt that was very effective, the titles of each slide. They were very succinct and to the point. How to defeat COVID spread. You provided a personal position as you went through each point. In defeating COVID, you gave sort of like your personal thought to each. And I thought that was very good. I really enjoyed that slide about defeating COVID. I really enjoyed the detailed rationale regarding the masks. I thought that was very informative. It kind of really brought home the importance of the masks and why. You used the word vector, which was very good. Typically when you at times can be a participant in getting an overview of something medical, they have all of those medical terminology and words. Vector was a good word, but definitely one that could be understood. And knowing that the nose, and I see a lot of people with the mask hanging below their nose, and to know and hear that the nose is a vector for COVID, like really blew my mind. I really thought it was very effective how for each point that you gave, you did indicate, you kind of reiterated to cover your nose, wear your mask, wash your hands. You gave the time frame of how long we should wash our hands. One of the things that, so you excelled at giving the historical context and the importance in the current facts. Your opening was a bit shaky. You had a little hesitation. And just in the time of being a part of Toastmasters, I think that's a part of your dialogue. You pause at times. I don't know if you noticed that. But one of the things I want to challenge you on doing is perhaps referencing some medical scientific references. So making that correlation, whether it was from CDC or some health organization of some sort. But overall, it was a great presentation, something that you definitely see on a news segment. You know, you sit in your doctor's office and you see it playing on the television monitor. But great job, very informative.
Thank you, Marcia.
My husband is on the side clapping.
Okay. Our second speaker was Mark Schroeder, and he is going to be evaluated by Dagan Newland. Dagan, please give us your evaluation.
All right, thank you, Mark. So Mark Schroeder, I'm going to do an evaluation on, I'll give you a couple of things I liked, one thing I may improve on, and a couple more things I liked. So first of all, you didn't meet the project goals. Your goal was to use a story with a speech or a speech that is a story, and you did a speech that is a story. And then you had the option of being be a personal, well-known, or basically create a story, and you did a personal story. So you did meet your goals, which is very good. The next thing was that I like the layout of your speech. It's very chronological. You started from talking about looking for a pet, then finding one, taking it home, and basically the timeline of how she is now. So I really like that, and it's very easy to follow that way, through a storyline. Now, when it comes to something that you can improve on, you're obviously a very seasoned Toastmaster, and it's very hard to pick something. So I kind of nitpicky about this, but it comes to the actual, not really your speech, but more like the presentation of the speech. Now, I did think of this first that this might be a little ambitious, but maybe possibly change your background image to something that would fit kind of something what you're talking about. Like, for example, you talked about holding the kitten up like this in the very beginning, that you could have a picture in the background, and leave that for a little bit. Then we talk about something else, pop up another picture that kind of related to what you're talking about. But I know that's kind of a little ambitious, but I think at the very end, like we actually brought up the picture to show us of Tootsie. That that point actually change your background to a picture of Tootsie. So when they took that down, we see the picture of Tootsie as well in the background. I thought that maybe giving you the presentation made a little bit more pop. But that's really kind of nitpicking, but that's really good. The next thing I liked was, when you talked about the meaning of Tootsie, you kind of gave a more of a personal touch to it, and when you related, to the past memory of growing up and having that had that little doll named Tootsie. So I thought that was really, really good, extra personal touch to it. And of course, overall, you just had a really great personal speech. It was obviously very relatable to other people that are pet parents, and I definitely do agree that if you are looking for a pet to get, that you would go out to a shelter or someplace like that and adopt one. Because all my pets have been adopted except for one that I got a long time ago, but that's the only one out of all my pets I ever had. In my lifetime, they've all been adopted or actually found. I actually found one of my pets in front of my yard here, and we actually kept him. So, but overall, really great speech, and I really enjoyed it. And looking forward to the next one. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Dagan. And I'd like to ask Tanya to please give us a timer's report on the evaluators.
Okay, Marcia, her time was 3:56 and Dagan was 3:13. And so Marcia did not qualify.
Thank you. So in that case, we would not need to vote. And let me make sure of this, since a minimum 2 minutes, maximum 3 with a 30-second grace. So, okay, 3:36 then would, okay, would just be slightly outside. In that case, we will not vote on the best speech evaluator.
3:50, almost 4 minutes.
Oh, okay, thank you. I misheard. What we can do now is hear from the duty holders. Karen Lee had 2 roles as counter and grammarian. Karen, would you please give us your report?
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. When John Vessels was giving his speech as grammarian, I noticed that he used the phrase, COVID was really kicking our butts. He also used as the word, as Marcia pointed out, he used the word vector in his speech. And in his speech, he did use the word of the day, unity, referring to unity of our nation. Okay. In my role as counter, I was listening for long pauses or crutch words. And I noticed that, now, Marcia, you have mentioned this before, but you use a lot of the ums and the one and a kind of. And Dagan, in your evaluation, you used the words you know a couple of times. And that is my report, Mr. General Evaluator. Back to you.
Thank you. And I'll give a brief report as posture bell duty holder. One thing I did notice that was kind of funny early on is at one point when Dagan was speaking, he touched his head, and on my Zoom screen, John was right beside him and touched his head at about the same time, which is funny. Mark Schroeder had very good gestures all throughout. He would widen his hands to make points. And John Vessels, in his table topics response, I forget the exact gesture he made when he talked about snow thunderstorms, but it was a good expressive example. I didn't really see any inappropriate or unhelpful body language on the part of anyone. Again, we're somewhat limited by the Zoom screen environment. Just my thoughts on the meeting is that, for starters, very happy to have a good group tonight, 12 people here. I really like Rob's background, and I want to encourage especially Cheryl and Karen and Evelyn to look at that, because that he had me fooled. I thought he had actually went to Azona's where we meet in person, and then somehow wanted to go there for some reason and attend the meeting. But that is a picture from a prior meeting, and you can see, look at your left of Rob's head and you'll see a banner, and that's the club banner for originally for Dallas Singles Toastmasters. And then to the left of the banner is the stage that we stand on, which is really great because it just gives you more of a experience of speaking to a group. So it's a nice place. Hopefully we'll get to go back there sometime. But since we can't be there in person, we can see what it looks like, especially for you folks that maybe haven't been there. One thing I want to note on speeches, we had 2 good evaluations of both. On Mark Schroeder's speech, I'm just going to have to note that Tootsie the cat looks fine, but Tootsie that doll did look a little maniacal. I can totally see where your wife is coming from on that. So it looked a little off to me, and apparently Betsy found the exact perfect word to describe it. And I really like the story about going to Commerce to get a cat. That is funny. And it is very commendable also. think on the table topics, Rob, I like the comment you made about how you have to bring all the particles in your brain together, because that is an excellent way to describe some of the differing things you have to keep in mind when you're making a presentation or talking, whether it's the time, whether it's audience reactions, whether it's the word of the day. That's a very descriptive comment. I'm glad you were able to get Karen Smith involved in the responses. And probably the next time we have this, we can get Cheryl Slagle involved also to get her off. And overall, it's been a good meeting. And what I would like to do now is call for a vote of the best of the big three. And the big three is you can vote from either between our Toastmaster, Lee King, our Table Topics Master, Rob Giles, or me, the General Evaluator, Mark Sims. So please send your vote by private chat to Tanya. And I will do that likewise. And with that, since we've completed our speeches, evaluations, table topics, and the evaluation, we can go into the business meeting. And what I'd like to do, first of all, is we had noted earlier on that Evelyn was attending tonight as a guest. Evelyn, would you just like to tell us a little about yourself, what brings you to Toastmasters, and what we can do for you?
Yeah, it's Evelyn Huerta. I actually work with clients. I'm a private banker. So I meet with customers, and I think I am okay with one-on-one sessions. When it comes to the fact that I have to maybe present something to my team, that's when I get a little bit. I feel like all eyes are on me, and I get a little nervous. But one-on-one sessions, I'm okay. But I decided I've heard a lot of good stuff about Toastmasters in general. I do have mentors that they've gone through that, and I've been suggested to kind of look into it, maybe get a little feel for it and see how it works and see if I would find it beneficial for me and somehow help me. So I thought I would reach out and kind of see what it's all about and join a session like I did today. And I think it was great. I mean, I think it's a different with the Zoom. I think obviously being in person, you get the actual feel or the actual experience for it. But that's what I hope to get better at public speaking for bigger groups, maybe 5 or more. Anything below 5, I think I'm okay, but more than 5, it gets a little tricky.
What bank do you work with?
I work for Chase.
Okay, super. Well, thank you for attending tonight. And we have heard that so much over the years, and that was my initial reasons for attending a Toastmasters meeting, is that you got to get presentations and you want to get good at it. And in my case, yeah, I was nervous. And on occasion, we'll still get a little nervous, but this is a great environment to work through that, to have some fun with speaking, not just for it to be a chore, something you have to do at work, but something that is fun. So please do come back. We'd love to have you as a member. We enjoyed having you as a guest. And please do come back next week. We'd be glad to see you.
Thank you so much for having me over. Everybody did great. Nice to meet everybody. Thanks.
Yeah, and Evelyn, you never know, since you work for Chase, Mark Sims might just show up to audit your bank someday. So, there you go.
I'm a bank examiner for the Texas Department of Banking, but we go to banks that are chartered by the state of Texas. And with your bank, it's a very nationwide organization that we don't go into. So I actually bank at Chase, so we're safe there.
Yeah.
No conflicts.
Thank good.
And let's see. really don't want to get into much business because we were going to have an officers meeting tonight. Would definitely we want to find out who the winners of our competition are.
We may have one other piece of business. Do we have a payment from Cheryl? Can we vote her in tonight?
Oh, yeah, excellent.
Yes, she's listed on Toastmasters International. She's
Yep.
she's a member.
Yeah, she's paid.
Okay. So at this point, we do still have to vote her in, correct?
I think
Yes.
so.
Definitely.
And
Let's
can
do it.
somebody explain, Mark, can you explain to Cheryl about voting people in?
Now, which Mark?
Either one.
And
Okay, go Sims.
excellent. And one point of order I have, usually in an in-person vote, where the sergeant at arms would escort the person being voted on out of the room. In this case, do we dispense with that, or can she be escorted into a separate space?
I can move her into a breakout room if we need to for a moment.
Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that.
One moment, please.
Yikes.
While I'm working on that, please explain what we're doing and why.
Excellent. And Cheryl, what we do is when someone joins the club, we go through the process of voting them in.
Yes.
A type of parliamentary procedure where someone makes a motion, we get a second, determine if there's any discussion, any need for discussion, and then cast a vote and affirm that hopefully that person is going to be a member. And
Okay.
again, it works better in person because you get to hear at the end the applause and come into a room and everyone's focusing on you and applauding your membership. Now, and again, in Zoom environment, we'll simply do the best we can. And I believe Mark Schroeder will try and get you into a breakout room, and then we can go through that process.
Yeah, I'm just about to do that. So Cheryl, I will move you to another room and we'll move you back in just a moment.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I hope that has accomplished that.
I make a motion that we vote Cheryl into the club.
Okay.
I second.
All right. Is there anyone who wants to discuss further? Hearing none, then I recommend raise your hand or say aye or do something affirmative if you're in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, Cheryl Slagle is now an official member of Dallas Social Toastmasters.
All right, I will begin the process of bringing her back. But it's going to take about 10 seconds for the rooms to close, it says.
Now, if she got lost somewhere in the meantime, that would really mar the voting, but I'm sure that won't happen.
Looks like Cheryl is back.
Did I pass?
You did. Congratulations, Cheryl.
Thank you. I promise I'll show my face next time.
Excellent. And we're very pleased to have you as a member. And I see that you were on the WhatsApp app.
Yeah.
So please do check that. And Rob's very quick about getting the assignments for the next week out. So you'll be able to see what your first assignment is going to be. And we look forward to that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for placing your confidence in us. We want to live up to that.
I think you will, and I am excited. Even though I'm terrified still, I am excited.
Great. Not great that you're terrified. Great. You're taking it on.
Yes.
That's a big step. If there's a reservation about speaking or whatever, you're challenging that, and that speaks well of you.
Thank you.
And at this point, I want to check back with Tanya. And obviously, two of our competitions we did not end up having voting for. So our best For our speaker winner tonight is Mark Schroeder. And our evaluator winner is Dagan Newland. So Tanya, would you please note the best winner of the table topics and the big three?
Yes, this evening, our table topics winner is Karen Smith. Congratulations, Karen.
Karen, way to go.
And then the best of the big three tonight is Rob Giles. Congratulations, Rob.
Yeah, very good job, girl. All right, that is terrific. And at this point, here in a few seconds, we're going to sign off, have an officers meeting, but everyone that's a member of the club would, even if you're not a club officer, you would be very welcome to join.
Mark,
And-
I also have one public service announcement, given the topic for the day. Just for our Texas folk, of course, with regard to snow days, we have to have a warning. Be careful out there, because quite frankly, that is enough to make the roads here completely impassable. I have seen people spin out and end up in the ditches with that much on the roads. All right, back to you, Mark.
Actually, I'm probably guilty there, or at that point, I'm going crazy with fear. Oh no, what's going to become of us? So I'm definitely not suited to bad weather states. And thank you again, everyone, and thank you for attending, Evelyn, and hope to see most of you here in the next few minutes in the officers meeting.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
I will be stopping the recording in 3,